So, do you remember when Mum's had to go to her workplace capability assessments?
Yes.
Yeah.
They are the worst.
For her ESA.
Nightmare.
I remember getting the first letter and going through that whole form with her. How long is that form?
Hours and hours of time that you could easily spend. You could just go to the doctor and be like, hey, we have this form. And they'd be like, cool, here's a letter. But no, you have to fill it out year after year after year. Oh, no, wait, only every 2 years.
Only every 2 years.
Oh, well, that's okay then.
Even though it's that Mum has a degenerative chronic condition.
But she's never going to get better.
With
She's
no
only
cure.
she's only ever going to get worse.
Exactly. And yet, every 2 years, they drag her all the way to Five Ways in Birmingham, which is like an hour away from us. All the way there.
Yeah, that's a fun drive if you drive.
But I remember the first time we had to do it, we realised that there was no parking at the building that she has to go to.
Oh, yeah, you went on the train.
So we went on the train.
Oh.
And I remember it was rainy and it was cold. It was snowing the whole day.
It was icy as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. And we've had to go on the train all the way into Birmingham. And then, obviously, there's no one on the platforms to help.
There never is.
No. So there's no ramp or anything to get her on and off the train. So she has to stand up, get out of the chair, get over that massive step, the gap.
Okay, I hate that gap. Like, never mind Mum. Poor Mum. I don't know how she manages it.
I mean, she lost her shoe down the
gap.
My God! On the way back.
And of course there was no one there to help.
No.
So you had to call someone and be like, hey, we've lost the shoe.
Yeah.
And like...
My poor middle-aged mother with her chronic conditions and lots of pain. She's had a whole day. She's in a lot of... She's lost her shoe.
She's there freezing cold. And
with one shoe.
With one shoe.
And then I'm running late for work. It was a whole thing.
Yeah, and it was all because I couldn't take you guys because I was at work.
You were at work, exactly.
Because otherwise I'd have driven. But when I've driven, it's been difficult as well because there's no parking near the place where you have to take disabled people to get assessed.
And then Dad, he couldn't take her either because he wasn't physically able.
He's not well enough to do that anymore.
No. And then we haven't even gotten to the assessment yet.
Oh God, yeah, that's a thing as well. Like,
yeah,
you've got to get into the building. You've got to get to the building first.
We've got to get to the building first. I mean, we get off the train and they say on their website, they brag, they're like, oh, it's a 2-minute walk.
2-minute walk, don't worry about it. Like, yeah, sure it is, yeah.
2-minute walk from the station. If you look on Google Maps, it's really close together.
They are close together.
I bet you or I could do it easily, but
not with a wheelchair.
No. And then, we get out of the station and I can see the building from the station. Great. But it's uphill. It's uphill and it's cold, it's icy, the pavement's uneven, it's cobbly, it's gravelly, it's awful.
It's not ideal really when you're trying to navigate a wheelchair.
And there's no dips in the pavement. There's no proper dips as you...
Yeah, you're trying to come on and off with the wheels and you get stuck every single time.
So I have to turn around and take Mum backwards up a hill.
Which she loves that. She loves that.
Oh yeah, wouldn't everybody?
White knuckling it the whole way.
And then you finally get to the building and they say it's accessible because there's a ramp, but the ramp is a mile long. And pushing someone up there and then being the person being pushed, it's scary.
It is scary.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's physically hard. For both of you.
Yeah. And then, we get in there and we're waiting over an hour just to be seen.
Yeah, no one's there to help.
No one. Everyone's grumpy. I'm grumpy. Mum's grumpy.
Yeah, by the time you've got there, you're so grumpy. You just want to be done with it.
And then you finally get into the room and you're confronted with someone who's not medically trained. And they tell you that as if that makes it better.
It's like, why are you not medically trained? You're making a decision based on our medical history. Why are you not medically trained?
Yeah.
So you got some rando making decisions for you.
And she was so patronising, this lady.
They always are.
And even though we'd stated in the form that she can't walk any amount of meterage without any kind of support, without her
Yeah.
walker or a person or anything to help her. We stated that in the form. She still made her get up out of her chair and try and walk the full length of the room.
It's like, I can't get her from the car to the house without her holding on to the car and me. But, oh yeah, totally.
A length of a room.
Unassisted,
no support.
no worries. Honestly.
And then 2 years later, we do it all again.
It's like, I get it, they have boxes to tick, but there's no compassion in it at all. It's just bureaucracy. It's just needless suffering for no reason. It's just, there is no reason to it.
And so 2 years later, we thought, let's try and lessen the suffering. And you had to book off a day from work.
God,
I had to book off a day from work, specifically. And we thought, we'll drive there. And so we drove 45 minutes, an hour into Birmingham.
Yep. Oh, yeah. The traffic's always terrible. And then there was nowhere to park.
Why is there nowhere to park?
It's like, oh, you can park on these double yellow lines. Like, oh, yes, definitely, I'll park on these double yellow lines and risk getting fined. Thank you for that.
So I remember you had to drop us in this, like, cul-de-sac around the corner. And then I had, well, Mum, again, had to, like, white bare-knuckle it as I'm trying to navigate her over potholes and gravel and uneven terrain up a hill, once again.
Up the hill.
And then you, because there was nowhere to park, you had to just drive around Birmingham.
I just had a little drive. I was just driving around, just waiting.
Hoping not to get charge congestion.
Yeah. That too, yeah.
And then same thing again. 2 years later, she's in a room with someone not medically trained who has her results from the last assessment.
And they still make you get up out of the chair.
And they still make you do all these tests. And they ask her really, obviously I know the questions have to be somewhat personal, but they ask her awful things like, can she get, like, dressed on her own? Can she bathe on her own? And it's like, that's very dehumanising to have to sit there and tell a stranger when it's written down as well. Like, you've already had to go through the emotional and mental process of writing it all down, and you're not even the person that has written it down because it hurts your hands too much.
Yeah.
You've already had to go through all of that.
Like, you wouldn't want to tell your own doctor half the stuff they ask you. But you have to tell this random person you've never met before. Yeah. Yes, I can put a bra on with assistance sometimes if I feel okay.
And only in certain temperatures and in the morning.
Yeah, if it's too cold or too late or my hands are too stiff, then I need to get somebody to do my bra up. Is that enough of, an evaluation for you?
And that's not something... you should never have to get that intimate and personal with a stranger.
It's too much, man.
Just to be able to be afforded the benefits and the money that you rightfully deserve and need.
Well, because Mum's worked every day of her life up until she had to retire early. And then she gets treated like...
second-class citizen.
Yeah, like some kind of parasite.
Yeah.
You're living off the system. Like...
Yeah.
Because she would love to go back to work. She would love to be able to work.
She always has.
Nobody was willing to accommodate her.
No.
And now, obviously, she's too ill to work.
You're right. I remember she didn't want to retire when she did. She retired when I was so young.
You were so young, yeah.
I don't remember Mum any other way than the way that she is.
Yeah, because she asked them whether they would be willing to...
Her old job.
Yeah, at her old job.
Yeah.
Because she used to... Mostly it was typing, but there was a bit of filing involved. And in order to get from her desk to the filing cabinets at the other end of the room, all she asked for is a little bit of an accommodation with that, and they refused.
Move her desk.
Well, yeah.
Just move her desk closer.
Like, literally, she could have just had the desk by the filing cabinet.
Clear the walkway a bit,
Wouldn't have been too hard. But they were like, oh no, we need somebody who's flexible enough to be... And that she had to leave.
Awful.
Like, she could have worked maybe a couple more years. She probably would have still had to leave, but not that early.
I barely remember any of that. I was so young. And that reminds me, like, the way that people treat her and Dad, to be fair, when they're in their wheelchairs.
Oh, second-class citizens.
And they don't speak to them, they speak to us, the ones wheeling them.
Hate that.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Like, you're at the doctor's and they're like, so what can you help you with? I'm like, I don't know.
It's not my body.
Done. Like, Mum knows. She's down here. She knows. I have no idea.
Yeah, can you look down from your massively towering desk?
Yeah.
And just look and see that there's a human being here.
I haven't got a bloody clue. You need to ask the brains of the operation, and I'm not it. I'm just the legs.
Just the legs. I'm not very good at doing that. And then, you know, it was talking about how I don't remember Mum any other way than she is. It's pretty hard when you think about Dad's deterioration.
Well, yeah, that happens so quickly.
You know,
he basically went from being
breadwinner, you know, the only moneymaker in the family, real sort of household leader.
Yeah.
To
being bedbound in like 6 months.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It
was scary. And I think, I'm not sure whether it's been harder, because obviously I don't remember Mum any other way, as I've said, but I've seen Dad deteriorate from a man that he used to be to who he is now.
Yeah, I think that is more difficult.
And even though I wouldn't change him for anything, obviously, but I wish better for both of them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because I still think of Dad as being this strong person who can carry the household the way he used to, but obviously that's not possible. And I feel really bad for judging him.
There's a lot of guilt that comes with it, I think, because I feel guilty when I expect how he used to be.
Yeah.
And it's just not possible for who he is now.
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously there's no one to blame. You can't blame him, and there's nobody to blame. And it's okay. And it's fine. But
it's still difficult, though.
It's just, it's not great. And the way that he lost his job.
That happened so quickly. It was really, it was overnight.
I mean, he had his angina attack when I was 6.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. And he's had no problems all these years. And then the DVLA took his licence to drive buses, and that was his, decades later, and that was his livelihood just taken out from under him with no warning.
Yeah, he had one treadmill test and narrowly failed it, and that was it. He wasn't allowed to drive anymore. Well, drive buses. He could still drive, but he couldn't drive buses, and obviously that meant that he could no longer earn.
And he drove buses for 20 years.
Yeah. Like, how do you just suddenly go from a stable career to nothing? Like, he was job hopping for a while, but that was so hard on him.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was hard on him. I mean, being the head of the house and having to earn, being the only one to earn besides Mum's benefits, it took a big mental toll on him, I think.
Oh, yeah, because it's a lot of pressure.
And then I'm sure he's never said it, but I'm sure he feels sad, I suppose, that he is not like that anymore. I would hate for him to ever blame himself for that.
Yeah.
It's not his fault. It's nobody's fault, this whole thing. Like, it's never anyone's fault. And
it just happened so quickly.
All of it did. And then I feel guilty for complaining because it's not me that is disabled. We're just the carers.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But it's hard to be a carer and also a daughter.
Yeah, I don't really know how to separate the two anymore.
Me neither.
So the fact that there are other people out there who don't have to constantly worry about their parents is mind-blowing.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's like when you're with Ben.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And Ben's parents are just...
The first taste I ever got of, air quotes, regular life was when I found a partner whose family was quote-unquote normal.
Able-bodied.
Able-bodied, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's pretty wild whenever we can just drop everything and go and do what we want to do. Like, that's just not a thing for us.
No. It's like, oh, we'll go for a meal tonight. Like,
oh, we can just go and do
what?
that.
Like, you mean we don't have to prepare everybody and make sure that logistically that's possible? Like, are you sure?
Yeah, we don't have to make sure there's enough wheelchairs and there's enough money and there's enough time. Yeah.
That is crazy.
It is. But I try and always think that it's no one's fault and I'm not the one that is disabled.
Yeah, it's like it could always be worse.
It could be worse. But then sometimes it gets really hard to consider whether or not maybe mum and dad's conditions are genetic.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah, that thought haunts me. I could not think of anything worse.
No.
Having seen it firsthand, you don't want to go through it yourself.
No. I try not to think about it, because if I do, then I will spiral.
Oh, if I do, I just think, well, what's the point to anything?
Oh, yeah. Because we've heard the way that mum and dad speak sometimes, and they talk like that. It's just heartbreaking.
You just don't
to hear.
You don't want that for anyone.
No.
Yourself or the people you love. You don't want that.
No.